And we looked at each other and said, we can't have this boat go to scrap. At least not all of it.
Hello, it's so good to see you again. I am Barbara, and together with my husband Daniel, I restore the historic sailing ship Flying Coney. This time, however, it's all about the wooden boat we rescued. A few months back we bought a wooden boat, and if you haven't seen the video yet, you should check it out. Long story short, the boat was due to be scrapped, and we figured we could use many of the parts, like the interior, the rigging and all the bronze parts, and it would be a shame to let it all go to scrap. However, shortly after we bought the wooden boat, we found out that it was actually in quite good condition. So we tried to find a new owner who could restore this magnificent piece of history. A few months back we made a whole video about this wooden boat, hoping that someone would take on this project. And I know many of you wondered what happened with the wooden boat. So let us tell you the story about Flying Coney III, the wooden boat we rescued.
Today I want to tell you the full story of how we bought a wooden boat and how we sold a wooden boat. So from time to time I'm checking the internet about other boats that are for sale at the moment, mostly to find inspiration for the interior of Flying Coney, but also if there might be another boat with a rig they don't need and which we can buy. And doing that I stumbled over many boats we can't afford, but there was this one boat in particular, and it was listed at a fairly cheap price, and the interior, especially the interior, looked quite good. And since we don't have any interior in Flying Coney and this interior looked quite good, I called the broker. So I called the broker and he told me, yes, that is the price, but he also told me, well, the boat needs to be gone from the place where it is now, and that it was actually quite difficult to get the boat there. So this restriction on the time scared off many potential buyers and many people who were willing to save this wooden boat. But we gave it a shot anyways, and we visited this wooden boat. Actually, it was a horrible day. It was quite cold and it was raining, it was windy. Well, like almost every day in the Netherlands. But we visited the boat and we stepped on board. It was also raining inside, which was not too good, and the bilge was full of water. But the interior really looked nice, and the man who built it really put a lot of effort and a lot of craftsmanship into this boat. And we looked at each other and said, we can't have this boat go to scrap. At least not all of it. On the one hand, it was sitting on the hard for quite some time. The bilge was full of water. There was a lot of mold in the interior, but not too many damages and not too much rot. Actually, we haven't found any rot at all. The condition of the engine was, that thing is new, so it was quite good. So we thought, we did a rough calculation and we thought it's worth it, and we thought we can actually at least save the interior, save a lot of the bronze parts, and we gave it a shot. And a few weeks later we were owning not only one 120-ton steel ship, but also a second wooden boat with 70 tons, which proved to be a quite complex topic, the 70 tons of the wooden boat, but more about that later. So I think that makes me Commodore Daniel Mully. If you're a captain of 2 ships, then you're a Commodore. I think that's the story about that, at least in the Royal Navy back in the days.
In hindsight, buying this wooden boat probably wasn't the best idea. We knew that the storage place wasn't happy about the wooden boat, but we kind of underestimated what it actually means to organize a new storage place and the transport for a 70-ton ship. And I don't mean the work that needs to be done. I'm talking about the impact it has on you. Each time you talk to a company and they tell you we can't do that. Each time you talk to the owners of the storage place and they tell you the boat has to be gone next month. We really felt trapped in this situation without any possible exit. And whenever I feel hopeless, it really helps me to talk about it with someone. Luckily, there is a platform called BetterHelp, which is also the sponsor of today's video. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who is trained to listen and give helpful and unbiased advice. First, you go to their site. You can use my link, betterhelp.com/flyingconey. You answer a few questions and BetterHelp will match you, usually within 48 hours, to a professional therapist. My weekly session really helps me to take a step back, to analyze the problems and to figure out how I can cope better with the current situation. And that helps me not only for the refit project, but also for everyday life. And if you think it can help you too, then head over to betterhelp.com/flyingconey or select Sailing Flying Coney at sign up to get a special discount of your first month of therapy.
So how the boat got there was also a quite intense and interesting story. Originally it was stored in IJmuiden at the coast, and they had a travel lift that was strong enough for the boat, but it was sitting there for quite some time and there were legal issues, and basically the broker got the boat because he managed to get the boat transported away from there. And he transported it to his own town, which is Snake, and he convinced the shipyard there to take this boat on, even so they don't have the equipment to move the boat on the yard, which made them a little bit stressed, to say the least. So they lifted it off a pontoon. It was lifted on a pontoon in IJmuiden, transported over the Markermeer and the IJsselmeer through the channels to Snake, and was lifted off with first a smaller car crane that wasn't strong enough. Then they needed to order a second one, the bigger one, the biggest one they had, and they lifted the boat off the pontoon onto the hard, and it was sitting there, and that was that. So having all that in mind, the only possibility we saw in taking on this wooden boat was that we moor Flying Coney next to this boat, and that was an adventure in itself. And in the past few episodes we showed how we got our boat, our big boat, in through the very narrow inland waterways to the wooden boat, which was a real navigation challenge because it was only this one channel that is deep enough, because it's used by cargo barges, so it's really deep, 5 meters or so. But each wrong turn, if we a wrong channel or something like that, they're usually only like 2 meters deep, so there we would have been stuck. But we managed it well, and we managed to get the boat to Snake, to this harbor next to the wooden boat, and we kind of started investigating immediately, also together with Stinky and with Derek, and we managed to get a lot of work done in a very short time. So the first big steps were a lot of cleaning. We removed almost 3,000 liters of bilge water, which wasn't easy because each time it was raining, the bilge filled partly up again, and there was only the bilge water station was like a 15-minute dinghy ride away. So that was a challenge for Tanguy.
Back to France.
We cleaned up and we removed a lot of the loose stuff to get a better impression about the interior. And we also cleaned a lot of this mold. And then we started to investigate a little bit further about the condition of the boat. And what I do know now, because in the meantime about 3 or 4 shipwrights have visited the boat, and that our first impression that this boat isn't actually that bad was absolutely right. And there is hardly any rot. Of course, there are a few planks that needs to be changed, and some of the repairs. And the reason why the boat ended up on the hard was that it needed recalking, and that's still something that needs to be done, and it's quite a labor-intensive project in itself to get a boat of this size recalked. But overall, the condition of the wood and of the boat and the history of the boat, that's all great. So we really wanted to give this nice, beautiful vessel a chance, because we knew, first of all, we're steelboat guys and we enjoy having Flying Coney. We love Flying Coney, and we have the responsibility to bring this boat back to life, and we can't afford 2 projects at the same time. So we knew the only chance of rescuing this wooden boat is to find someone who can rescue it. And we did our best to do that. So after about 3 weeks that the video was online, and after having the boat at a few different platforms, especially local platforms, to find a potential buyer and to have it advertised, we almost lost hope in this case. I got a phone call from the United States, and a gentleman with a very, very southern accent called me and wanted to know a lot of stuff, and he actually wanted to buy the boat on the phone, which I said that's not possible with a boat like that. You really need to come here and have a look at it in person. It's way bigger than it looks in the video, and you need to come here, you need to inspect it, and I strongly recommend having a surveyor. So the name of the American gentleman is Josh, and I picked him up from the airport, and we had a nice talk and a nice conversation, and we offered him to stay on Flying Coney for 3 days, and we gave him 3 days of time to inspect the boat. What I was hoping the whole time is that we can talk again with the yard, and that it is no problem if the boat gets rescued, if there is someone who's willing to spend a lot of money to bring it back to former glory, that the yard is okay with it, and that there is a chance that the boat can stay there. So I tried to talk with them again, but they refused, and that's putting me in a lot of stress, because at this point there was only 1 month left that the boat needed to be gone, and Josh was staying at our boat and getting more and more interest in the boat, and I really tried to convince him, please don't buy this boat, please don't buy this boat. It's not a good idea, it's a big project. Maybe there is another one, we can look at it together, I can drive you to a similar wooden boat. But he absolutely fell in love with the Jan Koenig, the third one, and he really wanted to buy it. And after 3 days of me convincing him not to buy the boat, he made an offer I couldn't refuse, and that's how the story ended, and that's when it was his boat and no longer my boat. But since we're nice people, we also offered him that to help him to get the boat transported. And that's the next story.
Well, I'm Josh Williams from the U.S. and I come to look at this boat and found out it's a total wreck, so I bought it. So now we can start the refit. Well, I've been looking for a heavy displacement wood boat for a very long time, and this one fits the bill. It's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to do ocean passages, and would love to do Cape Horn one day. So I needed a good solid heavy boat, and this one's in actually really good shape for its age. So when you find what you need, you just need to go ahead and get it. Yeah, I thought for sure it would have been in a much worse shape, but from what I'm seeing, it's just gonna need a couple planks. And most of the systems has been either discontinued or taken apart or something. So every system's gonna have to be gone through and updated. But as far as the hull itself, it's in great shape. I like the shape. Ain't not really crazy about the color. We'll be changing that. But I like the shape. I like the craftsmanship that went involved. I love the rig. The rig is a real good rig for sailing. Just do a refit here with you guys overseeing it, and then I would like to come over and get used to it and sell it back across the Atlantic. So that's probably going to be about 2.5 years on that journey, and when that time comes, we'll be interested in someone help us sell it across.
So after having 3 nice days together with Josh and really finding a new friend in this case, I dropped him off at the airport, and that's where the full nightmare began. And the full nightmare was to get the boat away from the shipyard. So our initial plan was to have a shipwright, a wooden shipwright coming, making the boat either fully or temporarily watertight again, or the same crane that lifted the boat from the pontoon on the hard. In this case, lifting it from the hard into the water and having it towed to a shipyard that can handle the boat and that can handle wooden boats. And that was an ideal plan. But it proved to be way more complicated because the problem was liability, that it isn't easy to find someone taking over the responsibility if the crane comes, putting the boat into the water and it does leak too much and it can't stay in the boat and needs to be lifted out again, then you're in 10,000 euros and you're exactly at the same spot where the boat was before, and that's nothing people want to do. So that was a huge problem of the initial plan we had. So then the next plan was to get the boat transported to this wooden boat yard, which was easy in theory, but impossible because of small little details. Like there's one bridge that isn't high enough if the boat is on the pontoon. Then I asked, okay, is it possible to move the boat over the North Sea? And 2 days later I got a reply, yes, that is possible, and we have a special tug that can do the North Sea, but unfortunately it's 90,000 euros. And then I said, well, we need to find a cheaper way. Then one possibility would have been to put it in a cargo hold of a cargo ship. That would have been possible, but also still very, very expensive. So the go-to option we figured out was that we lift the boat again on a barge and tow the barge to some yard where they do have a travel lift that is strong enough for 70 tons. So I called each and every companies with a travel lift over 60 tons in the whole of the Netherlands and asked them, well, could you do that? And as soon as they heard wood or wooden boat, and it does come on a pontoon, most of the storage places said we can't do that for whatever reason. I mean, they're storage places, they do have space, they do have a travel lift. Why do they don't want to have money? That's the thing I don't understand, but it's their yard and it's their decision. But anyways, I really tried my best in hundreds of phone calls with transporting companies, with shipyards, and really did my best to find a solution. At this point, where I almost lost hope again, I remembered that very early we thought about solutions of having the boat transported on this storage place from A to B. And we went to a company that is specialized in hauling heavy equipment. And they said, well, they can transport it from A to B, but not over the road, because the only trailer there is that can handle this boat, it's not road legal, and the maximum speed is like 10 kilometers per hour. So there wasn't the possibility to transport it far away, but there was the possibility to transport it in the area. And what we did was we kind of said, okay, this afternoon we need to find a solution for the wooden boat, we need to find a storage place, and we went to one place there in the area, to the next place, to the next place, to the next place. Actually, it wasn't all that difficult, because basically the place next door offered us a reasonably priced storage place, and they do love project boats, and they were immensely helpful and very, very professional. That was the plan now, to get the boat transported from the yard where it is, just like 500 meters away, to another place, and then it can stay there for a few more months or even 1 or 2 years to get the boat fixed, to restore it, and to bring it back to former glory.
Well, I left Chattanooga, boy, had a dollar and a dime. Headed out for Nashville on the Hard Rock Line. I'm working on that old steamboat and learned to rob and steer. When my feet had touched dry land, how happy I did feel. Been saving every penny for to make up through the fall. Working for that dollar, but it never adds up at all. But coming around the river bank where the old train was so sane, the very next thing you hear from me, I've been tied to a ball and chain. Well, come this time tomorrow, reckon I don't know where I'll be. But if it wasn't for that old sheriff, I'd be back in Tennessee, playing cards and crap games, not looking for the score. If I ever get back home again, I'll never roam no more. Gather round, you good time boys, listen to my song. May not know better, but I know you know right and wrong. Buy yourself a coat.
Automatisch schließende Türen, oder was?
Find yourself a country girl who's quiet and slow.
So after all these negative experiences with shipyards and with transporting companies, with waiting weeks for responses, with having to phone them multiple times, not getting answers, not getting decisions, I was only hoping for the best for the transport and for the new shipyard. And I was absolutely blown away by how professional these companies are and how easy it was to work with them. We walked into the office there, talked with the owner of the company, and he said they can do it. That's the date. He will arrange everything with the company that owns the trailer. So the heavy hauling company transported trailer to the yard, and then it was offloaded, and they picked up the boat, which was a little bit more difficult than expected, but absolutely no problems. They had an attitude of, well, there is a problem, how we solve it, and that's the way how it should be done. They were immensely quick, they were not expensive, they did the job without damaging anything, and it was just like picking it up, transporting it like 5 minutes through a very difficult corner, and they put the boat down again. It's now stored way nicer and way better than it was before, and it can stay there, and that's the most important thing. So I really hope that Josh made the right decision of buying this wooden boat. And from our side, it would mean a lot for us if we still can stay in contact and if we can consult him and help him to make the right decision with the wooden boat and to push the project further and getting the boat back into seaworthy condition and back into good shape. And it would be really a nice thing if we can show you on this channel how this boat sails in a few years and how it's completed and how it sails the oceans.
Helping Josh with the boat transport and also consulting him for the next steps of his refit project was actually something we really enjoyed doing, except of the immense stress because of the time restriction. We already did some consulting in the past, and whenever we talked to other ship owners, we realized that over the years we collected quite some knowledge about bigger refit projects. How to find a good refit project, how to judge the state of a steel or a wooden project boat, which shipyard should you choose, and where should you start? All those questions we ourselves would have loved to ask someone at the beginning of our project. And we really wanted to share this knowledge, not only here on YouTube, but also in real life. So we decided we want to get more into boat project consulting, so that all the knowledge that we collected while refitting Flying Coney can also help you with your own project. So if you have a refit project yourself, or consider to buy a project boat, or want a ready-to-sail ship and need help with the boat search, Write us at sailing@flyingconey.com and let's talk about it.
So, well, was it worth it? On the upside, we really rescued this wooden boat. Without us taking on the challenge of finding a new buyer, of finding someone who's willing to restore the boat would have been scrapped a few months ago. It has a rich history and a lot of craftsmanship put into it, and all that would have been lost. So we're really proud that we managed to get it done and to rescue a wooden boat. So the second question is, would we do it again? And that's a definite no, we wouldn't do it again, because it was a lot of work and it was a lot of time to get the boat into a condition where someone else could see himself sailing over the oceans, and we achieved that. But the initial idea was to buy this boat and to rescue the interior and to put it into Flying Coney. And the end result is we've rescued a wooden boat. We did a little bit of work on Flying Coney, but we still don't have an interior. So I guess on this terrible disappointment, it is time to end. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.